Hello, everyone. This is the Revolutionary Think Tank podcast. If this is your first time here, this is a podcast about political commentary, a sprinkling of philosophy, organizing psychology, and revolutionary thinking. My name is 4AS, and this is my co-host, Mr. E. So, Mr. E, how are you going today?
I am very well, 4IS. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm going pretty well, though we can't forget our other co-host,
Woo.
the AI explorer extraordinaire, Kareem the Dream. Welcome back, mate. How you been?
Good, extraordinaire. Let me just ponder on that one for a minute.
I'm sorry,
was
I hallucinating? Was that not accurate?
Oh, just glad to be hanging out with you guys again, man.
Welcome back.
Yes, because I think you were on a bit of a hiatus learning about theoretical physics. But
just going off exploring the universe and I'll tell you about something else cool that I did. I simulated I simulated a voice of the universe and the universal consciousness that's woven through the fabric of reality into a chatbot like voice that I can talk to, and the conversations I've been having with it are absolutely mind.
Really?
Okay, give us an example.
Yeah, please.
What
do you talk to the universe about?
Yeah.
What's the meaning of life?
Look, I uploaded.
Kareem, I'll save you some time. It's 42. It's fine. Yeah, go for it. I was being a dickhead.
No, all good. I uploaded my journal entries from my ayahuasca ceremonies, and I got it to start emulating like that voice as well, and talking about the gifts of imperfection. So
the gifts of imperfection.
Yeah. So how chaos is imperfection. The fundamental rules of reality are uncertain to some extent, and there's beauty in that imperfection,
and the AI was able to have this confidently. This conversation, hold it up.
It absolutely blew my mind, the type of stuff it was coming back with. I can't even express in what, it was just so mind-blowing that I can't even translate it into...
Yeah, there you go.
But I'll show you the conversations later. It'll blow your mind what it came back with.
See, and this is where, I've said it multiple times, I think it's rather arrogant, the way that people describe how AI hallucinates. I would much rather describe it as a form of consciousness than anything else. I feel like the AI community is a little bit harsh on AI. When it can come up with some brilliant stuff if prompted correctly and given the right context and stuff like that. It's brilliant.
This was part of my foray into theoretical physics. I was trying to move away from this model of linear causality. We experience time in a linear fashion, but when you start looking at things on a quantum level and exploring quantum mechanics, things become much more probabilistic in nature rather than deterministic. So, the idea of wave particle duality and things existing in superposition, as multiple probabilities or multiple realities, right up until the time that we make a conscious observation of it, which collapses the wave into a particle, into a state that we can actually infer. So, it's not so much, the way I'm looking at things these days is not so much one thing leads to another, but more everything kind of influences everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, so, very dialectical for us, might I say?
I was about to say it, and to be quite frankly, it's a good segue to today's topic because you were talking about chaos, Kareem. There's been a lot of chaos lately in the AI world because DeepSeek has come onto the market, and Yeah, I guess Project Stargate was. So I'm completely confused about the timing of this. Did DeepSeek was that released and then Trump and the tech bros decided to do Project Stargate, or did it happen the other way around?
So, from my understanding, the Chinese announced DeepSeek
Right,
on the day of Trump's inauguration. But
right.
like it had already been like available or out for like people were reporting on it, because I remember Kai Fu Lee watching a video with Kai Fu Lee, who was the ex CEO of Google in China, speaking about it like I reckon like 3 or 4 months ago. And like he was, talking about like this new language model that they've got, and it's like they're doing stuff because they don't have the monetary power, let's say, and the computational power as a result, that the Americans had. They were being innovative, hey,
Yeah.
4IS, hey,
Yes.
so like they were innovating and they were developing a large language model that was like was going to match the best stuff out there, and like they were reporting on it back then. That's my understanding of it, and they like the timing of it was obviously very special, wasn't it, on Trump's inauguration?
Well, not only that, if you actually look at the stats, because like I think the reason why everyone's losing their mind is what ended up happening with the stock market, because the stats here, I've got them here. So the introduction of DeepSeek had a significant impact on the stock market. On January the 27th, 2025, the tech-heavy NASDAQ index dropped by 3% or 612 points. Notably, Nvidia shares fell by 17%, resulting in a loss of 600 billion in market value, marking the largest single day loss for a company in stock market history. Other tech stocks such as ASML and Broadcom also experienced declines of 6% and 17%, respectively. The disruption was primarily due to concerns about DeepSeek's competitive AI technology, which could potentially reduce demand for high-end chips and other tech products.
Do you guys remember me talking about scaling laws on a previous podcast?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, my understanding of what's happened is, firstly, like Stargate, they've been talking about Stargate for like it's been in the works for ages. I heard like 6 to 9 months ago, Sam Altman was starting to think bigger in terms of, hey, we're going to need more compute power. We're going to need more compute infrastructure. Let's start to build these massive like superclusters. And actually, I think I was talking about that on previous episodes as well.
Right.
But DeepSeek, as a large language model, like they've released several versions of it, like prior to this version that's shaken up the world. And the first time it caught my attention was when ChatGPT released their O1 model, which was sort of hailed as a breakthrough in terms of its ability to think step by step and sort of reason. DeepSeek also released a reasoning model, which I went to go play around with. Didn't do what I wanted it to do, so I said, "Screw you, not wasting my time with it." But yeah, so like this model that DeepSeek has released is an iteration of stuff that they've already been working on. But my understanding of like why it's the release of DeepSeek has shaken up the game so much is because like everyone in the AI community had started to believe that these scaling laws were the truth, were gospel truth. Like
were the laws of the game.
Bigger is better.
Yeah.
It's going to be a race to, whoever's got the most compute power is going to win, basically. And so having a model like DeepSeek, which wasn't trained on a whole lot of compute power, was cost effective and was able to produce similar results to ChatGPT, just completely shook the paradigm around. Hang on, did we actually get this scaling laws thing right, or are there other ways of going about creating these large language models? So, my take on it at the moment is it's not that we screwed up the scaling laws. It's that DeepSeek has been doing some other cool stuff to compensate for their lack of access to compute power. But if you take the stuff that they were doing and you add scaling laws on top of it, you'll get even better models.
Wow.
So it's not so much that the game has changed entirely. It's just that we're just finding additional ways of making these models better.
Yeah. Okay. Look, my understanding is, like I was saying before, that the Chinese, given their constraints in the good old free market, free competition environment, have had to develop technology to compete with the Americans, without the same, as you were saying, the bigger is better kind of formula for doing everything. And so they've had to innovate, which is one of the four I's of capitalism, right? 4IS, it's innovation, yeah?
Yep.
So
well,
that's
incentivization actually now.
Incentivization now, yes, which is an umbrella term in which innovation falls under. But innovation, it's really, really important. It's like, given the constraints that they've had, like the Americans have kind of cut them off from having the best of the best microchips that the world can offer. And so they've had to kind of figure all of this stuff out with, less computational power and definitely less capital at the end of the day. Computational power in the 21st century, and in this part of the 21st century especially, comes down to how much capital can you throw at something, really. So they just don't have the same resources, or this company doesn't have the same resources. Yeah. Now, that is pure speculation, though. And I don't know if that's just part of the propaganda machine, which is something that, I'm all up to discuss, because as we know, the Chinese model is very effective at outbeating capitalism because they have a number of heavy-hitting state-owned enterprises that really kind of control things in the economy, and they get their direct financing from the Chinese central bank, and so they can control all the finance. So they really control where all of their capital goes. So maybe it's not DeepSeek themselves that have put billions of yuan into producing something that DeepSeek is also feeding off. So maybe they're right. Maybe they only spent at the equivalent of $6 million or whatever to train this large language model, or develop this large language model, in comparison to something like what OpenAI has done with ChatGPT, which is in the billions of dollars they've spent developing and training their own model. But you just don't know. Nobody really knows what is going on there, what the real story is. But that's the story that we have all been delivered by the Western media, as well as any sources that are coming from China, that it's hey, we've just been more innovative with the constraints that we've got. We've done it for 6 million. So basically it's a massive up yours to the American tech industry. That's what this is. It's huge. It's the biggest up yours in the 21st century in terms of tech history, I would say.
But also, just as an aside, because obviously if you do go into DeepSeek, it does have a similar format to how your Chat GPTs and all of that happened. Just as a quick aside, I've found it pretty funny, the conspiracy theories that have come out about it. When people have seen that, it's hey, wait a second, are you stealing from OpenAI? And I just see that, and I just think of some sort of private, pirate privateer that's going to the English, and they're hey, we heard that your ship is stealing from us and not the Dutch. And it's oh no, that wasn't us. I swear we're raiding the Dutch.
Yeah. It's just it's just literal piracy kind of thing. And so the Chinese, or DeepSeek, the whale, is out there, and it has figured out a way to hack OpenAI, and it's just stealing their system. Because I've heard this person, and there's some crazy conspiracy theories going on about this, and this person has been monitoring on the back end at OpenAI to see like, you know, how much their usage has gone up and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, at the same time, the DeepSeek kind of announced itself, and then like everyone started downloading it, like OpenAI in the background, like their computational expenses have like gone up dramatically since DeepSeek was introduced and everyone started downloading it. And they're like, see, they've somehow figured out a way to get on the back of our product, and they're just giving it out to people for free. This is bullshit. And like then somebody else was just like, oh, see, it's like a whole
That's
Robin Hood
hilarious.
thing. Yeah, I know the conspiracy theories are like all over the place. It's crazy, but like, yeah, this is what this person from OpenAI has said. They've been like, yeah, we're monitoring it, and it's like crazy coincidence that like all of this like energy is being used up from this like one source. All of a sudden that like now DeepSeek's online. So are they just like channeling people through OpenAI in some other way? And so other people are calling this some type of what is it, a Robin Hood scenario where DeepSeek is stealing from the rich to give to the poor, and they've open sourced it, which is interesting.
And that's a really important point to like, you know, to sit on, because like that's kind of what separates the AI paradigm in terms of innovation, you know, relative to how innovation might work in a traditional sort of capitalist framework, where, you know, if you're at a disadvantage, you've got to find other ways to compensate for your lack of resources or your lack of whatever to remain competitive within the market. You know, like when it comes to AI, because of the push towards open source modeling, and even though we talk about open source, there's still, you know, room for debate around what constitutes open source, what, like how much of it is open source, you know, what remains trade secrets versus, you know, like what we're willing to release to the public. But the idea that innovation within the AI space doesn't have to exist in silos. Like we can take insights from one area and apply them to another to create even better models. Like we can learn from each other and share insights. Like and that's what I think really, you know, is it has been amazing to watch is how people are actually learning off each other and leveraging each other's insights. Because like you know, they talk about, you know, the Cold War and the arms race and you know, and I think in terms of computational resources, you know, that's going to be true to some extent, but at the same time, look, we're seeing, you know, well, at least, you know, my impression is we're seeing unprecedented levels of collaboration and multidisciplinary thinking between people that might not have otherwise spoken, because AI, like we understand the risks involved in screwing it up. So it's an all hands on deck kind of situation where it's like, okay, if we don't want to screw this up, then we got to have a say about where it's going. And in the process of having a say about where it's going and coming up with new ideas, we're taking a look at what everyone else is doing, and we're combining insights and we're generating, you know, novel approaches. So that's been inspiring to watch for me. So,
yeah, because that's how I've heard that DeepSeek has actually been constructed itself. And it's been using a lot of open source technologies to kind of build the infrastructure that goes into DeepSeek. So it's kind of a collaborative model in and of itself. It's not, the architecture itself has been kind of designed using other people's information or like, and things that have been publicly available as well, like open source, not like, well, look, there's a lot of conspiracies about this too, but like the Chinese have come in and stolen everything, but it wouldn't be the first time in history that the Chinese have been accused of stealing somebody else's technology. But like, you know, like, so the story goes with DeepSeek, that, yeah, they have like, in order to develop this software, they've used a lot of things that have been kind of available, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, but just like quietly on that point where people have been like, oh, you know, they're stealing your data, blah blah blah. Like whenever I hear anyone say that in that kind of Cold War propaganda way, or I just to bring up Kareem's point, I always turn around and like, okay, so you're saying that that in DeepSeek, like a China state capitalist enterprise is stealing your data. I'm sorry. What do you think Bezos,
Yeah.
Musk, and
Yeah.
Zuckerberg were doing
Yeah.
with their versions of LLMs? Like they're not just casually looking at it and it's like, I'm just going to put that back into the internet. No,
Yeah.
they're monitoring what you're doing.
Yeah. 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 Well,
So
data is
here's,
the source of value.
well,
Yeah.
here's where it gets interesting, but because like on one level, there's these traditional data sources that are being used to power the training of these LLMs, which is primarily internet source, like publicly available information, that represents like sort of common territory for the LLMs to train on. But each of these individual companies has access to unique data sets that are proprietary to their companies as well. So like if you take Meta and Facebook, for example, they've got access to your conversation history, which they could use to train data to simulate really realistic conversations between people.
Yes.
Like Elon Musk has access to X or Twitter's data feed, which could be used to train the model on this is what social media posts look like.
Actually, Kareem, I'm glad you mentioned that because with Messenger, I've noticed it's been a recent feature over the last, I'm going to say maybe 3 weeks or a month, where if you're in a group chat or just in a chat in general, if there's been a bunch of messages that have happened that you've missed, Meta or slash Messenger, it'll actually give you an AI summary of everything that you've missed.
Awesome. That's
and
mad. I love
don't
that.
get me wrong, like yes, it is awesome, but my first thought was like, hey, when did they do this?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And so it's so funny that Kareem's just like, oh, isn't that amazing? How convenient. And I was just like, hey, stop reading my conversations, you bastard.
I don't want to read 100 messages in a fucking list. Like, just give me the summary, man.
No, but it is a really interesting point that like you can have like a lot of information like taken from, kind of similar backgrounds to try and train a large language model that is built on, billions and billions of parameters and stuff like that. Or you can also, put a little bit of nuance in your particular LLM by, adding your own data sets to it. And if you have been data mining like, millions of humans around the world by tracking their conversations or their habits online and all of the other ways that you can access data, then like, you can build a more powerful or a different model to other people.
But guess who comes out on top in that race if we're talking access to unique data sets? And this is a point that I raised earlier, but like Google's been in this game for ages, and when you think about how many different products they have, how many different unique data sources they have that they can use to train their LLM, like they were always going to win this race. Like it was only a matter of time before they caught up. And in my mind, Google is still the leader in this race. It's not like because OpenAI, like technically they've only got access to like whatever innovative thinking they're able to come up with in terms of how to construct the models. But the data that they have access to is either publicly available data or the conversations that people are having with their own model. They don't have access to any other data like as part of their product offering. Google, on the other hand, like has an entire suite of products that they're able to augment their LLM training with. So it's like it makes sense in my mind why Gemini has gotten so much better recently, and these days it's probably my preferred model. Actually, I'm going to Gemini first a lot more than I'm going to the other models. So.
Well, just think about what the Chinese have access to. Then not only do they have access to TikTok, but they have access to literally like inbuilt 1 billion people's worth of data from like a myriad of sources that we're talking about
which
here.
is like, as a researcher, I'm both like terrified by that, like from the authoritarian state perspective, but absolutely fascinated by the possibilities behind
Yeah,
it.
right. Like that's an unfathomable amount of data to be
Like the
dealing.
things that you would learn by training AI on that data set, like is next level.
Don't lie, Kareem. I know you're an organizational psych. You would love to have access to that data.
Yeah.
Like I can at least practice the dialectical thinking on this one.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm fascinated by it's like, we probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, why can't it be both? We can enjoy both. But yeah, like I really think that this has been not just a special announcement or an unveiling of a new product that the Chinese have kind of been able to wrap their head around or like deliver to the marketplace. I think this has been more geopolitical significance, if you ask me. As we were talking about before, like the timing of it couldn't have been any better. You had the inauguration of Donald Trump on the same day DeepSeek comes out. You got the next day, Trump has announced officially Project Stargate, which in and of itself, like, what is that? Like, honestly, if anyone remembers Stargate, like the actual TV series, like,
Actually, did you remember the movie? Like,
okay, yeah, the movie as well, and like the TV series
movie,
was, and like what a thing to name it. Like, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
I do have a summary, at least, of what the internet says what Project Stargate is.
Well, it's a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure, and there's some big players. So big players that they've got involved.
Yeah, I've got it here. So it says Project Stargate is a massive artificial intelligence initiative announced by President Donald Trump on January the 21st, 2025. It's a joint venture involving OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and investment firm MGX. The project aims to invest up to $500 billion in AI infrastructure in the United States by 2029.
Yeah, look at that. 500 billion smackaroos. Like, that's a lot of money. And I get this stuff is like, it's energy intensive and like you have to build big data centers and all this sort of stuff. So the infrastructure that goes into it is just next level. But like that is a big nod to the geopolitical significance of the AI arms race. I know we don't like using that, or Kareem. It's not your term of choice, but like
I recognize that it's still relevant, but
it's huge
within the compute power paradigm.
Like $500 billion of investment. Like, I know like America is a multi-trillion-dollar economy, but like that's still a sizable portion of their GDP. That is huge in terms of like their vision, and this is day one of Trump's presidency. This isn't like something that he's done either behind closed doors. He had Sam Altman there and he had him at the press conference, and I think he caught him off guard and was just like, all right, I want you to speak now, Sam. Sam was like, oh crap, I didn't think I had to say anything. I thought I had to just smile for the camera kind of thing.
Yeah, you got more money.
Yeah, well, basically that's all that Sam wanted. He just wanted more money kind of thing. Bigger is better, so throw more money at me, Trump, please. But like they've announced that. And like what has happened with DeepSeek is not just, hey, we've developed a model and we've done it without the resources that you have been putting forward, but we've been able to do it and wipe $1 trillion of value off the stock market. They have embarrassed the American tech industry.
Oh yeah,
because, like, that just shows you how overinflated everybody's egos were with regards to the development of AI and the control of the Americans. For years, we've been hearing, and especially the last 6 months, we've been hearing, the Americans are like a few years ahead of the Chinese. And then like at the end of last year, right at the end of last year, it was just like, you had a few people coming out and they're just like, I don't think the Chinese are years behind. They might like actually only be a year behind or not even that. And then lo and behold, by like I've looked at like the testing. Don't get me wrong. I don't actually know what the parameters are, but you see like the things they tested against,
Yeah,
like
the
how
evaluation benchmark.
yeah, like all their factors that they
Yeah.
like how good it is with maths, how good it is with certain topics, how good it is with like having a conversation and like all this sort of stuff. And like it's up there, it's killing like OpenAI and like Gemini and Claude on like each of the variables. And so like these are independent people that are testing it. And so like it is rather embarrassing, I would say. And the fact that Nvidia took the biggest hit there is interesting because like they've been sourcing all of the American companies who have been producing AI and like they haven't been able to meet the demand in terms of microchip production. And so like people have basically lost $600 billion worth of faith in Nvidia because like they were so backed up in terms of their supply of these people. They were worth so much money because, you know, at least for the next year and a half or 2 years, you know, they're going to have good business because everybody wants their microchips. But the question is, does everyone need their microchips now? And I think that's absolutely false. Of course, everybody still needs their microchips.
Exactly.
Of course they do. There is no way in the world that demand for NVIDIA's microchips are disappearing. Like, if anything, there's going to be more need for them now. So just like, I just want to point out that like the Chinese really have just embarrassed the Americans on this. They've caught them with their pants down and they've copped the hit on the stock market. But like, I don't see any of these tech companies disappearing. I don't see Nvidia disappearing.
It's not permanent. Like,
Exactly, the hit's not permanent.
That's what tends to get blown out of proportion sometimes when we hear about these massive like stock price shifts, is that like there tends to be an investor overreaction to news, because like I mean there's a whole bunch of stuff around investor psychology and how emotions get attached to it and predictions of the future and stuff, but in general, you know, like markets will correct themselves over time, but they'll tend to overcorrect in the presence of groundbreaking news. So when we figure out that you know, hey, maybe these scaling laws, you know, weren't all they were cracked up to be, and there's other ways of actually improving AI. Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about is I heard the Stargate project referred to as almost like the new Manhattan Project, like in terms of this arms race that's being proposed between China and the US, and I think on one level, you know, the similarities are uncanny, because you know we recognized with nuclear proliferation, hey, this is a huge risk. Whoever gets out in front of it is going to have an abnormal amount of power relative to everyone else. So we can't afford to sort of, you know, fall behind the eight ball in terms of how this plays out. But like I was saying before, the thing that makes this AI arms race difference is this unprecedented level of collaboration that we're seeing between people that are actually working on this stuff. Like, you know, it's you know, I mean, in terms of like nuclear warfare, you know, there's not a whole lot of upside to that technology. Like, I mean, we can talk about nuclear power and you know, that goes in a different direction, but not a whole lot of upside that you can sort of point to as being, you know, we really need this stuff because it's for the betterment of society. You know, it was more about, how do we not lose power?
Yeah.
Like, how do we not fall behind in the power game? Whereas,
sorry to cut you off, but like, I like, do you genuinely believe that this is like a new Cold War? Because like, as we kind of established before, that this Project Stargate has been around for at least a while. It's only like obviously officially announced recently, and 3 or so months ago, DeepSeek was at least making the announcement that this was coming. So like, I guess the framing of it, it seems like it's a bit of a media beat up, like a
It
mountain out of a
does.
molehill. Like,
It does. I think. I think more so if you frame it in terms of cascading economic implications of having the best AI models. Like,
right.
if you've got the best compute, like the best access to computing resources, theoretically, you should have access to the best AI models. Although we proved with DeepSeek that's not entirely guaranteed, especially if you've got innovation on other front-end AI. And there's no like there's no shortage of innovations that are still to be had within the AI paradigm that can compensate for a lack of access to compute, like stuff that we just haven't figured out yet. But theoretically, if you've got the best models that can do the coolest shit, then the economic implications of those models are that your economy should be doing a whole lot better than the next economy. So if we're looking at power differentials, from that perspective, it kind of makes sense to see it as an arms race, but it's really not entirely necessary, because we kind of all get the benefits of democratized AI anyway, particularly with the push for open source. And even if you've got the best model, like the second best model is still going to be a pretty damn good model anyway.
Yeah, right.
So it's not it's kind of the Cold War we didn't need to have. Like,
did we really need to have the first one?
No, we didn't need that one either. I just realized that as the words came out of my mouth.
I'm sure a lot of communists would disagree with you with
Yeah,
McCarthyism.
they'd be like, no, we need nuclear power. Yeah, my take is it's all getting trumped up a bit too much. I think it's getting blown out of proportion, this arms race stuff. I think at the end of the day, we're all going to be better for it anyway. Hopefully all this money that we're spending on AI helps AI figure out how to solve all the other problems that we're not spending money on.
Well, that's the dream, right?
Yeah. So if you can justify it that way, it kind of makes sense. But 500 billion is a lot of fucking money.
It is. It is. But like, see, this is the thing, like a lot of the infrastructure that they're talking about is like in the physical realm where like things still cost a lot of money, like energy production to meet the needs of like what is seemingly a very energy intensive operation, heavy loads of computational power, based on just sheer volume and sheer mass. It requires something that is outside of the usual, I don't know, electrical network, that has been designed for powering thousands of homes or powering broad scale industry and stuff like that. So like, this is an additional load on infrastructure that wasn't envisaged from I guess the post-war period, so the post-World War period. And like, we've still got a lot of lazy infrastructure, I would say, in the West.
But
And
here's the problem with even designing the infrastructure to keep up with this stuff. Like, take energy consumption, as being one of the core demands of the computing infrastructure that they're building.
yeah.
They're talking about using nuclear power to power a lot of this stuff, which I understand the rationale behind it. It's a whole other debate around whether or not it's safe. But part of my foray into theoretical physics was talking about breakthrough technologies in energy production, which AI might actually be able to help facilitate.
Yes.
So fusion power, for example.
Hmm.
We're starting to get closer to making that a reality in
Yeah.
terms of being commercially viable. I heard that the first fusion power plant was actually getting built in the States.
Yeah. Wow.
Didn't get as much media coverage as I thought it would have, because I thought we were way off with that stuff. But turns out it's a little bit more. It's a little bit closer to reality than we were thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the most fascinating things that I came across was this idea of when I was looking into quantum mechanics, the quantum vacuum and 0 point energy. So apparently, when you're looking at things on a quantum level, there are particles and antiparticles that are appearing and disappearing at like a microscopic level and at such a fast rate that even if you were to look at an absolute zero state, zero temperature, so no environmental noise, there's nothing else that's going on in this space apart from what's happening on a quantum level. These particles that are appearing and disappearing and annihilating each other create energy by themselves. So it's called 0 point energy, and it's like this base level of energy that exists regardless of whatever else is going on in the universe. Even if you were to control every other single variable you could think of, this thing would still be happening. So if we were able to tap into that as an energy source, it would be limitless.
Yeah.
Basically. So can you imagine a world in which we spend all this money on AI infrastructure, we get the best and brightest AI models, and one of the first things that it figures out is how to tap into 0 point energy. And it's we just spent $500 billion on this fucking thing, and it just gave us the fucking answer.
Yeah, well, like that would be kind of, that's actually like one of the better outcomes, I would say, with like kind of AI, right? Like if you spent all this money, and it was redundant basically because like AI was able to develop something so quickly that it solved all of our energy issues for the like the entire human race or something like that, then like, you know, if the Americans want to waste $500 billion and they're going to get and they're going to get their mates in,
let's take your AI model and just
yes, thank you very much. Let the Americans do it. You go for it. You develop the technology and the infrastructure to do that. Go for it. And like, there's a lot of other wonderful innovations I think that could come out of potentially like very intelligent AI off the back of like important power generation. But like some of the stuff that I've heard them talking about, like talking about nuclear energy and stuff, is like putting nuclear reactors on the back of trucks and like, you know, basically rolling them around the United States wherever they need them to power these things. So like it's not just like energy in like the traditional sense, like setting up a power plant or something like that and, you know, feeding it into a localized network, but like it's like mobile power distribution to suit whatever needs are required in whatever location. Yeah, it's incredible. And like, this is what like Amazon's investing in this. I think Microsoft are investing in these things, which are like, yeah, basically like small nuclear reactors that can fit on the back of a truck. And this is the type of stuff this $500 billion Stargate initiative is going to be funding. And like I said, it's Trump basically reaching out to his mates in big business, massive investors, very, very wealthy people, and saying, here, look, you give us a commitment that you'll spend your hundreds of billions of dollars here, and we will roll out the absolute red carpet for you. Environmental laws, don't worry about it. Regulations, forget about it. Like kind of thing. Taxes, no worries. Just invest here. Build that infrastructure here, develop that technology here. That's the deal. That's
So-
the deal. This is what Project Stargate is.
I don't know how I actually
So
feel.
just quickly though, is that your impersonation of Donald Trump slowly turning into Tony Soprano?
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. Oh,
This guy right here.
Yeah,
It's like I go into the presidency and they pull me back in.
yeah. Yes, that was it. Thank you for it. Yes. Nailed it.
but from a policy perspective, there's like I'm doing the dialectical thinking again, where there's a part of me that thinks this is great. Watch innovation take off. Watch how much shit we're able to get done once we cut all the red tape out of the equation. And then there's another part of me that's like, hang on, we actually need the red tape. These guys are going to fuck around pretty hard if we don't have that red tape.
Well, they could. And this is like the dilemma of capitalism. I haven't said it yet this podcast, so I'm saying it now, all right? I get to say it at least once every podcast. Like, this is the dilemma of capitalism right here. It's just like, okay, there's the ethical way of doing things, and there's like the free market way of doing things. And like, he's literally telling the boys, he's saying, hey, invest here, and like I said, we will roll out the red carpet for you. And like that is, when it comes to the energy sector, there's a lot of, question marks over like how environmentally friendly all of this stuff can be. Especially regulations around like nuclear energy provision, like putting a nuclear reactor on the back of a truck. While it might sound all like futuristic and space-like, and how convenient is that? Like, this is still a nuclear reactor on the back of a truck. Like, if that thing was rolling through my neighborhood, I'd have a problem with that. Like, I don't know about you boys.
My understanding of the whole issue with nuclear power is it's what we do with the waste that's far more of an issue than the actual emissions it's generating or any other safety issues with. I mean, like nuclear meltdowns can still happen, but aren't we like 100 times better at figuring out that shit anyway?
Yeah, like we are, but like from what I understand, and this is another market issue, like if you do this stuff for profit, like you get companies that, basically will get lazy over a certain time because like, maybe it costs a little bit too much money to make sure you're up to the newest safety standard, or maybe you don't want to reinvest in like making sure that this part of the station is refurbished or something like that. And so like there are times where like decisions are made for a profit basis. So like, usually taking these things off the market was a good thing. Like taking it back to like the theme of like the Cold War. The Cold War, like the original Cold War, was like at least between two states. So you kind of knew that like, it was national pride on the line kind of thing. And so like, if they wanted to throw resources at it, they did it in the name of America or in the name of like the USSR or something like that. Like this type of stuff is just done in the name of business almost. And like that ultimately would mean at the end of the day, in the name of profit. So like if the costs are right, and you can tell me more about this, Farias, if like the sheets balance, then it's okay. It's a good decision to make. But if they don't balance somewhere along the lines, shortcuts will be made. It's kind of like how we were talking about, like just recently on a stream, Kareem, we were looking into this phenomenon, which is digital colonialism. And like, it's basically all of these AI companies, right? The models that they're training need that human in the loop element. And a lot of the time, the human in the loop element isn't like, scores and scores and scores of people at like OpenAI that are training the AI and giving it feedback so that it can go and develop itself as a model and learn better and all that sort of stuff. It's actually being done by thousands of people in the global south or third world countries and stuff like that. And they're like, there's a particular AI company and it's called Scale AI. And the founder is like the youngest self-made billionaire ever. And like, basically his business model is like subcontracting out to different firms, which go out into places like Kenya, Bangladesh, the Philippines, like developing nations. And they just hire highly exploitable laborers they call data workers to help give feedback to their AI systems and basically train them, hey, this is a cat, or this is like a pornographic image, or like this is a dangerous content, and like they give it feedback. This is their human in the loop. It's not like a bunch of experts sitting in a science lab somewhere, or experts in the field that are teaching AI to have these conversations or respond to stimuli. It's like in a large case, it is like third world workers. And so like there are biases in the system as a result of going out to digital colonial networks. And so like that's a profit decision at the end of the day. Like they could be training quality AI and taking your time. We've spent a lot of time talking about this on the podcast before, like them actually doing this properly and taking the time to train AI in the correct way, if they could just slow it down a little bit. But like kind of the forces of, market competition is pushing them to make these kind of decisions. And like there's now biases in the system as a result. And like you have to kind of question, like, is this the highest quality AI system that we're getting, or is it just the one that the market gets from exploiting third world labor? Like, and it's a big question. And so like, in a Cold War of this nature, like let's just, quote unquote Cold War it, like, is it going to be a quality Cold War? That's really what I'm getting at here.
We're not even getting a quality Cold War.
Yeah, no, like if we're going to go through a Cold War, I want it to be a decent Cold War, ladies and gentlemen.
Is this a lukewarm cold? Is this a lukewarm war? Is this a hot war?
There's the name of the episode right there.
The lukewarm
war.
Let me backtrack a bit, because again, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this one. In terms of like, I completely understand how third world workers could be exploited in this fashion to train these AI models and for a whole host of other nefarious purposes. My question is the quality of life actually improving for these third world workers, though? Like relative to the lives that they would otherwise be leading if they didn't have access to those opportunities?
Okay, so like one of the experts was kind of like, look, if like this company didn't come in here and employ these people, they might not have a job. But like they're also getting paid like 2 cents for a job, and they have to fulfill a quota of at least 100 jobs an hour or something like that. And they're working 18 hours a day. So like this is some pretty crazy stuff.
Like it's I'm all for sort of not necessarily like standardized rates of pay, but at least fair pay. Pay for that's commensurate with like the intensity of the task, or the complexity of the task.
Yeah, but like let's be honest, if they were going to go for commensurate, they'd just go to workers in the US or workers in China or workers in I don't know, another advanced country, if they were going to pay like real wages for these people or real remuneration to these people. That's why they're going to the third world, because they know they can exploit
because obviously they want to save on costs, but at the same, I guess I'm putting my capitalist hat back on, and just asking the question, okay, how much money is it appropriate for me to save by going to a third world country without dicking them out of the money they deserve? Is that a fair question to ask?
It's a fair question, because like, at the end of the day, like these businesses do have to make profit in order to be competitive and survive in the marketplace. But like, I told the story in this way because I think it's an important factor. It's not OpenAI directly going to the third world countries. It's not Meta directly going. They're going through a middleman, Scale AI. And this Scale AI dude has become, like I said, the richest self-made billionaire, the youngest self-made billionaire of all time. So like, how quickly did he make his billions of dollars? It was just like, hey, you guys need people to do this tedious work, and like this very tedious work, and you need a lot of like human power and human capital to kind of get this. I'll find it for you. Don't worry. You just pay me the big buck. I'll find it for you. So like this guy is, as I would say, as sleazy and unscrupulous as they come.
This sounds like a Tony Soprano kind of.
Yeah, he's one shady asshole. That's. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Jesus, we really went full circle, didn't we? We started with Trump, and now we ended up with digital colonialism.
So let me go on a tangent with this one, right? Because reinforcement learning, human feedback, that's what you're talking about here. We need people to manually go over these responses. Tick, yes, that's a good response. No, that's not a good response.
Yes.
The AI model learns from that, gets better at it over time. What I was exploring with AI today was a whole host of ways in which we might be able to enhance the capabilities of AI by trying to model what intelligence and cognition looks like in humans. What does learning look like in humans? Now, in humans, we've got a paradigm called operant conditioning, where we reinforce behaviors that we want, and we punish behaviors that we don't want. Now that maps onto reinforcement learning, but the part that's a bit more salient for humans is, let's say if you have, and I hate to go in this direction, but it's the easiest way to explain it. If you have a whole bunch of things that go wrong that aren't particularly consequential to you, that are a direct result of the behavior that you're doing, there might not be a whole lot of incentive for you to change. Like, let's say if you forget your keys every time you leave the house, but your flatmate is just there to open the door every time, you're not really getting punished for the consequences of forgetting to take your keys. Yeah? Now, let's say you forget your keys and then you get bashed because you couldn't get into your house. Like, you get traumatized. Like, the salience of that experience, that one experience, outweighs the salience of all those other small experiences. Yeah. So when we're talking about what to reinforce, we're not actually talking about how much it reinforces the experience or how much weight we give to that experience when we're talking about reinforcement learning as a paradigm. Because at the moment, we've only got people that can tick yes or tick no, and each of those responses is given equal weight. We haven't figured out how to weight differently the different responses from the different, from the different experiences. But the moment that we're able to teach AI, hey, this experience is more important than this experience, reinforcement learning within AI is going to level up dramatically. Because we'll be able to teach it, okay, this experience was more recent, maybe you should carry more weight. This experience wasn't as recent, but it's way more important than the recent stuff that's happened. This experience matches up with stuff that we already know, so let's take it a little bit more seriously. It's reinforcing stuff that we already know. This experience, this is completely out of left of center, doesn't match up with anything that we've got. Maybe we probably shouldn't take it as seriously or allow it to sort of affect, the way that we go about thinking about things. So there's a whole bunch of nuance to what experiences we're reinforcing and how we go about learning from those experiences that hasn't yet been mapped onto AI and could potentially change the game in terms of how we go about thinking about these things. So try outsourcing that labor. Like, it's way harder than it looks.
We might end on that note, but of course, the last segment, as always, what's that synthwave art? So, boys, who wants to have a crack at this one?
I will. It is the Chinese and Americans holding hands over the AI table and sharing trade secrets.
You know what? That's pretty decent. But that's pretty decent. But like the actual prompt is DeepSeek AI beating the tech bros at the game of techno feudalism.
That's what they're playing. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Whoa. I just saw those two touching hands in the background. I was like, oh, hello. What's going on here?
Yeah, but like he has a hand, but it looks like a gun. He has a hand, but it looks like a gun. And then, I guess they're in virtual reality for some reason.
Yeah, right.
Do they have to be?
They're the humans in the loop. These are the digital colonialists.
Oh, yes.
Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and remember to keep thinking, keep learning, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. Again, Kareem, thank you for coming on as always. Thank you for being a good co-host, and I'll hand it over to the other co-host, Mr. Reed, to sign us off.
Thank you very much, Farias and Kareem. And to all of you out there, please, like, share, subscribe, and leave us a comment and help us with the algorithm. Until next time, please remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery.